Morning. Welcome to the McDonald's parking lot. See, here we are, just hanging out at McDonald's, just doing my car thing here. So, this is called Raised by Monex Psychopath. And I've just used the term Monex kind of loosely to describe someone who's just shallow, materialistic, greedy, self-centered, and just extremely materialistic. And that was my dad. I was raised by someone like that. Even though he wasn't in the financial sector, he was still like everything was about money. It was like my whole relationship with him, the father-son relationship was basically non-existent. There was a guy who walked around the house who I called Dad, but he didn't watch over my schoolwork or take part in any of the activities, going to the school or going to my sports or any of that. Like the other kids' dads were more involved with my sports than my own dad. He was never there. But I mean, the problem was that he took no interest in my education either. Because like my mom had an education degree, so she was, at least had a interest in doing a good job raising her son. And I think that was one of the major breaks between my mom and dad, is that she wanted to raise her son and he just was incapable of caring. He was just off in narcissist land. So it's taken me my whole life really to figure out that my dad was a psychopath, basically. Just the way, because the way he raised me, it was like he was constantly pulled the wool over my eyes and would do anything like a normal parent would want to kind of educate your kid and kind of be there to guide them through life and help them, make their way and get started in life. My dad was the exact opposite. He wanted to pull the wool over my eyes, not tell me anything, and the majority of his interactions with me were something to be an asshole about money or an asshole about work, or just to kind of just belittle me because I was stupid and just treat me like I'm just a dumb kid that he just doesn't have really time or interest in. Because he's smart, he's a scientist, so he viewed himself as extremely intelligent, which I guess he was. If you're the head of a scientific department for the government, and you're in charge of hiring people into the government, I guess you better be pretty smart. And I assume that people in the government came to him not only for jobs, but for advice or just government knowledge, or just he was the big shot in the block. So they come to him and say, "Does this look right, Jerry? Is this right?" He was the guy that ran the sector. So I don't know. He didn't tell me anything about his job or his career or how he made his living. All of that was all top secret. He didn't talk about his life at all. He was very interior, introverted type of guy. And obviously, to a guy, as a kid, being raised by someone like that, who's basically a cold, calculating, scientific, unemotional, Cold War era scientist type guy, government scientist, and you get no connection. He's just kind of just treating you like a stray dog that he doesn't really give a crap about. You're not getting a very good job being raised. And then even on the flip side, it's he could have done a million things for me. He could have put me through the best schools. He could have taught me how to fly. He was this big shot pilot. People looked up to him for piloting. He was the head of this piloting organization. So he could have easily taught me to fly. He could have easily put me through school and got me a good education and helped me build a career and helped me get on a good path where I was, working towards building something and not just out floundering in the ocean with nothing. But while he was alive, he saw me for many, many years either without a job or just floundering around doing stupid jobs that aren't going to get me anything. And he was fine with that. He didn't care. He viewed it as, I'm just going to start at the bottom and work my way up, and eventually all my hard work will pay off and I'll become successful all on my own with no help and no guidance from anyone. And then, the problem is, what if that doesn't work? What if whatever ideas I come up with all on my own with no help and no guidance from anyone, what if those aren't good ideas? And if nobody tells me to change my ideas, what if I keep going off on some dumb idea that's never going to get me anything? And that's what I did. I thought I was going to be a rock star, which isn't a terrible dream to have, but it's a difficult dream to fulfill, especially all on your own with no help and no guidance from anyone, especially your millionaire dad, who could easily put you through music school and tell you how to make some good moves to get into a real band that will actually make money, instead of going and spending 5, 6, 10 years on these dumb garage bands that are just goof off guys who aren't serious about music and are never going to go anywhere. And that's what I did. I spent years and years on nothing. And then when I finally started working and getting a job, I got no skills and no education and nothing built up. So I just got to keep working these bottom of the barrel jobs that aren't even really building you a resume or anything, because it's just another piece of crap that nobody cares about. And finally you get to the point where it's like, well, I'm in my mid-40s. I should have a career. I should have some of my dreams fulfilled. I should have at least played in a band and done something. But I was like, no, I've always had the weight of my asshole dad crushing my life. Even after he died, the weight of all the crap he put on me just continued to crush my life. And I know you might just say, well, just get on with your life. Well, it's like, I sure wish I could. I sure wish I would have made a lot better decisions. But I made terrible decisions, And for a long time, my asshole dad was right there watching me make terrible decisions and not doing a thing about it. So, that's just part one of being raised by a Monex psychopath. I don't think I didn't really even scratch the surface, but